In a tense Senate hearing today, Missouri Senator Josh Hawley questioned Federal Energy Regulatory Commission officials on two major issues: energy reliability in his home state and potential ethics concerns inside the agency. Hawley opened by focusing on the Spire natural gas pipeline in St. Louis, a project that has faced years of legal challenges before finally receiving approval from FERC in late 2023.
My home state of Missouri and St. Louis, the Spire pipeline in St. Louis, as you probably know, has had a long and somewhat unhappy saga until recently. Finally, in December of this past year, the Commission gave the pipeline a certificate to operate. I'm asking you about it because, as I hope you know, residents of the St. Louis area have been repeatedly told that their gas bills would rise in a very significant way if the pipeline was not able to operate. Can you give me some assurance that the Spire pipeline in St. Louis will continue to be authorized for the foreseeable future?
Senator, as you know, we handle pipeline certifications on a case-by-case basis. We have a public interest obligation and determination to be made. We take them as they come. My understanding is that I will double-check to make sure with my staff to see what the status is of Spire in particular, but that is the way we approach pipelines, and I support that case-by-case approach.
Okay, good. Well, if you could get back to me, that would be helpful. I want to make sure that this pipeline, which is now FERC approved, continues to operate and that we don't see major disruptions in service for the residents of the St. Louis region. Let me ask you about rural co-ops. My state is a majority rural state. Our rural electric co-ops are a hugely important part of our energy grid in the state of Missouri. They have been facing major supply chain issues, in particular the purchasing of new transformers. Tell me what you're doing to help keep prices down for rural electric co-ops.
Again, we have a number of reforms that we're moving forward right now. A huge part, and I think affordability is addressed in some of our reforms right now, and it will benefit the country. The more resources that we can bring on, I believe we can help in the long term lower prices for consumers.
Great. Well, I want to make sure that we keep the price of electricity affordable, and again, especially in our rural areas in the state, especially working with rural electric co-ops. That's a huge priority. I look forward to working with you on that. Let me turn to Commissioner Clements. Let me ask you, some emails disclosed last year via a FOIA request showed that you briefed a funders-only session at a left-leaning grant-making foundation called the Energy Foundation about FERC 2022 priorities. Who were the donors who attended that session?
There was not fundraising in the meeting you asked about. It was a convening of foundation staff from across the country, and I was having a very kind of straightforward, above-the-board conversation about 2022 priorities. Subject to my ethics agreement and any ex parte restrictions, I have an open-door policy, so I meet with all kinds of stakeholders. I've actually never said no to a meeting between either my staff taking it or myself.
Wait a minute. You said it was staff. The FOIA information says it was advertised as a funders-only session. Donors.
I'm not sure. It wasn't an advertised thing. There are foundations that work together.
It was briefed as a funders-only session, meaning that there were donors there. So who were the donors?
I think it's important to understand that what my role to do is engage with these stakeholders. When I was invited to present to a group of foundation staff, just like when I'm invited to present to the board of...
I don't understand what you keep using the word staff. The information says that there were funders present. There were donors. I want to know who the donors are. Who were the donors? You give me a list?
I'd be happy to. I
Good.
don't remember specifically, but I'd be happy to.
Good. Was there money raised at the event that you spoke at?
No.
What were the FERC 2022 priorities that you spoke with this donor group about?
I gave my standard speech that I give when I speak to any convening of stakeholders who participate in the sector.
You use stakeholders now several times. Does that include industry donors? Is that a definition of stakeholder now? Our major donors?
Yeah.
Do you think it's appropriate that you would be giving closed-door briefings to donors?
No, and I didn't do that, sir. What
do you mean you didn't do it? This is the information says that it was a funders event. It was a funders only session at a foundation that raises money from donors.
I provide my stump speech on my own FERC priorities to many different kinds of groups.
Donors?
Many convening. Some of them might be donors in any capacity. Certainly,
Did any of those donors who were present that day have a financial interest in the energy industry?
almost everyone I speak to has a financial interest in the energy industry.
Oh, wow. Okay. So this is a normal practice of yours to speak to groups that have financial interest in your industry?
So when I go and I talk to the board of EPSA or the EEI CEOs or the interstate pipeline member companies, all of whom I have spent time with, the idea is that subject to ethical responsibilities and also my ex parte restrictions, I engage with them. I tell them my priorities.
Do you think it's appropriate, my time is running out here, do you think it's appropriate to speak to advocacy groups at a donors-only session? Do you think that that's appropriate?
I think it is appropriate to speak with foundations who are interested in the energy.
To their
space.
donor sessions? Wow. Wow. I have to say, I think that that's pretty problematic. I would like a list of the donors. I'd like to know who was there. I'm concerned about this, what you've now described as a pattern and practice of speaking to donor groups that have financial interests in the industry you are regulating. I think that's a big problem. If that's not currently foreclosed by law, we ought to foreclose it, Mr. Chairman. But you said that you do this on a regular basis. We'll probably follow up. I think I'm probably going to need to see a list of all the groups you've spoken to. I'm going to want to know the donors that you've spoken to. I am extremely, extremely disturbed by what you have just told me. And at a time when we have major ethics issues, we've got members of Congress buying and selling stock based on information that only they are privy to. We've got members of the executive branch who are buying and selling stock in industries that they regulate. And now we've got you speaking to donors in industries that you regulate.
Senator, thank you.
That's a problem.
Thank you.
That's a problem, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Cortez.
He pressed Chairman Phillips for assurance that the pipeline will remain authorized, noting that St. Louis residents have repeatedly been warned that their gas bills could spike if the pipeline were shut down. Phillips responded by saying pipeline certifications are handled on a case-by-case basis and promised to have staff clarify the current status of Spire. Hawley urged the commission to ensure no disruption in service for Missouri consumers. The senator then shifted to concerns facing rural electric cooperatives, an essential part of Missouri's energy grid. He raised alarm about ongoing supply chain shortages, especially the difficulty of obtaining new transformers. Phillips said current reforms are aimed at improving affordability and reliability nationwide, and Hawley underscored the need to keep electricity prices low in rural communities. But the most heated moment came when Hawley questioned Commissioner Allison Clements about a funders-only session she reportedly briefed at the Energy Foundation, a left-leaning grant-making organization. According to emails obtained through a FOIA request, Clements spoke at a closed event labeled for donors only. Hawley repeatedly pressed her to disclose who the donors were, whether any money was raised, and whether attendees had financial interests in the energy sector. Clements insisted it was a meeting of foundation staff, not a fundraising event, and said she gives similar presentations to many groups across the industry, utilities, pipelines, and advocacy organizations. But Hawley pushed back, saying the FOIA documents clearly described the event as a donors-only session. He called it extremely problematic for a regulator to privately brief donors with financial interests in the industry she oversees. Hawley demanded a full list of donors present, as well as all groups Clements has met with, calling the practice a serious ethics issue. As he concluded, Hawley linked the matter to broader concerns about conflicts of interest across government, saying, "At a time when members of Congress and executive officials are trading stocks in industries they regulate, the last thing we need is federal regulators giving closed-door briefings to donors with financial stakes. That is a problem. A big problem." The committee is expected to follow up on Hawley's request for additional information.